number 7 in our cavalcade of virgins this evening, Mr. Todd Kelly. Give him a nice round of applause. Todd Kelly.
Yeah, I sort of got into this by accident. I was actually looking for the unemployment line. It's amazing what you have to do to get a check these days. But, I was pretty lucky growing up because, I mean, my family, we get to live the Irish-American dream. We owned our own bar. It was kind of like a Cheers place. You know, I go in there on Friday nights, everybody knows your name, and they say things like, "Hey, Todd, I just puked on the floor!" Yeah, it was great. But, you know, as a kid, you don't really understand what it means to, you know, have a bar in the family. I mean, for a while I was thinking, wow, my dad knows the king. Yeah, his name's Bud, and he's the king of this someplace named the Beers. And, you know, my mom would reinforce that. She'd be like, I could hear, you know, her shouting at my dad, is that Bud talking, or is that you? And my dad's best friend, actually, his name was Jack Kennedy. And so, you know, a little kid, and Jack Kennedy, and I'm like, wow, that's so cool. The president bails my dad out of jail. Yeah, it was great. And, you know, but overall, my parents actually, they tried to do right by us. You know, they sent my brothers and I to a private Catholic school for boys. And, you know, it was really sort of a petting zoo for priests. It was. Yeah, you know, so later on, my parents get divorced a few years later, and now I have this younger half brother. He's 12 months. Yeah, and so I'm thinking, you know, you see all these drug ads, and I'm like, you know, Viagra, why don't they start putting a warning label on these Viagra pills? It's like, you know, just because it's an old gun doesn't mean it's not going to go off. It's unbelievable. Yeah. But, and you know, and the problem with drugs these days is there's always these drug scandals going on. I'm reading Sports Illustrated, and I'm thinking, you know, there's another drug scandal. Yeah, well, another big scandal anyway. This one was in drugs, but looking at the scandal, it's like apparently they caught one of the swimsuit models eating. Yeah, and if you look at like last year's pictures and this year's picture, her toe is definitely fatter, so she's gone. That was it. And you know, she'll probably enter the fashion world, which is this whole world that I just don't really understand, because I'm thinking, okay, so the fashion world, it's basically ruled by, you know, Armani and a bunch of gay men, basically. But then, why is it that men dress awful? You know, all the fashion seems to go to the women. I mean, the women seem to have choices. They've got, you know, mini skirts, short skirts, long skirts, you know, pants, shorts. Men, our fashion choices are like, do you want a boot cut or a straight cut with that? Yeah. And you know, you think about another part of fashion is it's like we do some really bizarre things, like bell bottoms are all the rage again. And I'm thinking, didn't we make fun of those in the 80s? Yeah, and you know, they just have all sorts of problems because they're basically tight where they need to be loose. They're loose where they need to be tight. You walk around like you're kicking circus tents everywhere. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And then, you know, another thing about fashion is they do stupid things like button flies. What is wrong with a zipper? I mean, why do you need a button fly? The last thing I want to do is be standing in front of a urinal trying to get this thing into that hole and this thing into the next hole. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But it could be that I'm just getting older. I was listening to Nirvana on the radio the other day, and it was an oldie station. It's like middle age has got to become, because I'm starting to think, you know, kids today, they have it so easy. And yeah, that's the sign right there, right? And I'm like, you know, when I was growing up, we had to get our porn on videotape. It was awful. I mean, the freeze frame never worked. You couldn't clean the tapes. And kids today, all they have to do is, you know, they can go to the public library and get all the porn they need. That's great. That's all. Thank you.